We're joined once again by rock historian and Monkees podcaster and Cheap Trick podcaster and Kiss podcaster and maybe even a Styx podcast in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Ken Mills is back with us, and, you know, he's got all these irons in the fire when it comes to various different rock and roll bands, and I don't think, this would be embarrassing to say, but I don't think that you're a hardcore Beach Boys fan, and that's kind of one of the reasons I wanted fresh ears regarding an album that we're going to talk about. But just briefly, if you could give me some idea of where the Beach Boys fit into your musical landscape.
Well, there's two ways of looking at it. And first off, thank you for letting me on the show. I love your show. It's kind of like appointment listening. So, you know, everyone check this show out. It's great.
Thanks so much.
As far as the Beach Boys, they were the other guys. In the 60s, there were a lot of other guys. If you were a Beatles fan, there was the Monkees. If you were a Beatles fan, there was the Stones. If you were a Beatles fan, there was the Beach Boys. So in some ways, they were the other guys, because the Beatles are like the big deal. On the other hand, the Beach Boys are no slouch because they went toe-to-toe with the Beatles on just about everything and every career permutation that you can think of. I love the Beach Boys. I'm definitely more a 60s kind of fan, like where Pet Sounds and stuff like that. I wasn't the biggest fan of like the Kokomo years.
The 80s Beach Boys, okay.
See, that really wasn't for me. And it really worked for them, and it was great, and, you know, you can't fault them for their success, and God bless the Beach Boys. They really are an American institution.
Well, you know, I like to think that there are four different types of Beach Boys fans, or they have four different audiences. One is, and this is the largest group, it's a group of people who just like fun, good time music. And that would be primarily their early to mid 60s stuff. Mm-hmm. Then there's that other group who are really into orchestral pop. Then there's that sort of offbeat group that likes all the weirdness of the Beach Boys that more or less came later. That's the smallest of the groups. And then the last group is people like me who like everything.
And the thing is all of that is valid.
Yeah.
It's still the Beach Boys.
So the reason I asked you to listen to two albums, one of which you did already own and know, and the other one you didn't know, the reason I chose Pet Sounds and also the Beach Boys' Love You is because both albums are statements from one person, and that would be Brian Wilson. Briefly, your impressions of Pet Sounds.
Well, Pet Sounds is, you know, the American Sgt. Pepper's for what it's worth. It's just an amazing collection of art, and it can't be beat. And there's not much more I can say about its greatness other than it's great. You know, it literally changed pop music forever in a way.
Do you have a favorite cut off the Pet Sounds album?
I think Wouldn't It Be Nice is just amazing. It's beautiful. It's transcendent. It does not get any better than that. I love when the drum pops in right at the very beginning.
Sure, yeah.
It's just from that moment on, you're just writing greatness.
We're talking to Monkees podcaster and rock historian Ken Mills on our Beach Boys Bash. And before we get into talking about Ken's first impressions of the Beach Boys' 1977 album, The Beach Boys' Love You, just a quick history lesson for some of our listeners. After Pet Sounds and the collapse of the Smile album, Brian Wilson more or less remained hands-off on many of the Beach Boys albums after that, which allowed the other guys to write music and contribute to those records. But in the early 70s, there was a nostalgia boom, spurred on by the film American Graffiti and the rise of oldies radio, and the early 60s sound of the Beach Boys was popular again. So the band did an about-face and decided they wanted to get Brian Wilson back in charge to make hit records like he used to.
At this point, the Beach Boys were entering a phase where they were becoming your mom and dad's Beach Boys live again. people weren't necessarily buying the Beach Boy albums, but they were seeing them in droves.
Right.
They were like the first band that I can really recall doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, they were successful based on their reputation.
Yeah, and now today that's a commonplace thing for a band like Aerosmith or Kiss or
Right.
whoever to do that now. You know, you've got a body of work and you tour on it. Back then, I remember Rolling Stone saying, well, these guys, they have the Sun-Kiss commercial based on, you know, Good Vibrations, and that's just horrible, and they're like an oldies band now. But that being a quote-unquote oldies band became incredibly lucrative.
Sure.
And them trying to get back with Brian was kind of like unifying the camp, getting it all back together. And sadly, I think that unless Barry Gibb of the Bee Gees would have written a song for them, I don't think that they were going to have as much luck as they used to have had. But I was not prepared. I had heard tracks off this album, and it kind of like made me think, that's not your mom and dad's Beach Boys. And it was kind of weird, and it seems like the album wants to go in and out of being a concept album to pictures of his life.
Yeah.
Like, to me, there's a couple tracks. There's Let Us Go On This Way, and then there's Solar System.
Yeah.
And to me, that almost seems like it's part of a concept album he might have been working on about being in outer space, and we're all getting telekinetic powers. Wouldn't it be great if we'd all go this way? And there's some sort of weird philosophy going on, and I'm surprised that they didn't go that way and have the album be about the Silver Surfer. I mean, it's a match made in heaven, you know. Just think about it. I'm surfing the stars between Venus and Mars. You know, it just seems like it would have been perfect for the Beach Boys in the 70s.
And it's interesting you do bring up the, you know, it is sort of a series of snapshots of Brian's life at the time, and you can imagine him, because he spent a lot of time in bed, obviously, in the 70s, watching Johnny Carson and thinking, I should write a song about Johnny Carson. I love the show so much. I'll tell you a bit of trivia. Johnny was evidently made aware of that song and wasn't all that flattered.
Well, it's kind of a bizarre song. He's probably listening, waiting to see if this was going to say something good or something bad about him, and it's just about him. It's neither good nor bad. It's just there. You know, there's some songs that are of a very personal nature.
Right.
About diapering a baby, for example.
Exactly.
You know, that's just, it's beautiful stuff.
It's not commercial, though. Like Roller Skating Child.
Which I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
Very strange, because you've got, like, it seems like it's two different generations going on. One is, gosh, all golly gee, and the other one's like, I'm in this girl's bedroom and her parents don't mind me spending the night. And it sounds like a creepy old dude hanging out with a roller skating girl, you know. It's very bizarre, but yeah. So it's all cool.
Well, she's a roller skater.
We're talking to Ken Mills about the Beach Boys' 1977 album, The Beach Boys Love You, and yes, there are plenty of oddball tracks on this record. There's also some beautiful cuts, like The Night Was So Young.
Yes.
Which is a song that could have fit on Pet Sounds.
Yeah, but on the other hand, things like Honkin' Down the Highway,
Right, yeah.
With the great Al Jardine giving a solid performance about a guy trying to get home, that just shows you the difference between Beach Boys 64 to 77 is they're now family guys, and he's just trying to get home, you know. Right. Get out of my way. Instead of surfing the waves, he's surfing the highways, and he's trying to get home. So it just shows a bit of a difference between the decades, if you will. And there's things like on the song I'll Bet He's Nice, which has a bit of a weird meanness to it, you know.
Yeah.
Basically, the guy that's going to replace you, he's really nice, just like you. And but it's great to hear Dennis Wilson, Brian Wilson, and Carl Wilson together. It's just fantastic. The harmonies and stuff that they do. And there's a bitterness and a fragile bit in his voice that is just fantastic. Then there's a song like Let's Put Our Hearts Together.
Right.
The duet.
Yeah, Brian and his wife.
Yeah, it's very adult, very adult. And I think we would, get people angry if we didn't mention this. Wasn't it supposed to be a solo album for Brian?
Yes, yeah, it was. It was supposed to be
So
Brian
it was
Loves
pretty
You.
much put together and thought out and planned out and done. And they said, hey, we need to get everybody back together. We need you.
Yeah.
So, it was originally supposed to be Brian Wilson Loves You, right?
Yeah, it was.
So, it's kind of strange that it almost isn't a Beach Boys album as much as it is. I don't want anyone to be upset by what I'm going to say next, but there's times I felt I was listening to Zappa. Like a mellowed-out Beach Boys version of Zappa. There's some bizarre stuff going on here. These guys were scrambling to find their identity again, and they found it on the stage, live in front of the people that loved them. And that's not a bad thing. But like I said, if they wanted a hit in 1977, they should have had Barry Gibb write them a song. And but outside of that, I don't think there was a hit on the last two songs, Airplane and Love is a Woman.
Right.
They kind of touch me, because if you've ever been traveling and you want to get home to the person you love, it's very sincere, and Love is a Woman, it's a great song, but there's this sense of weirdness to it. But
yeah.
Like I said, the Beach Boys are struggling to find an identity, and they found it live on stage, and they became an American institution to this day.
We've been talking to rock historian and podcaster Ken Mills about his first impressions of the Beach Boys' Love You album from 1977. And Ken, I want to give you an opportunity to tell everybody where they can find your various podcasts, including the one that seems to have taken the podcasting world by storm, and that's Zilch, the Monkees podcast.
Well, Zilch is, now we're talking about bands that never really got their just desserts in some
Right,
ways.
sure.
No conversation would be complete without mentioning the Monkees. They can find us on iTunes, or you can find us on Blogspot. Just do a search for Zilch, a Monkees podcast, and we will appear, just like a genie, poof, like that. And we have a great Facebook page, and there's so much fun and facts, and I cannot thank you enough for your support. And my wife says that you've ruined me because I have a big head because you've called me a rock journalist, and I told her that I'm going to have Ghosty call me a pop and rock culture historian now. So I'm a pop and rock historian. So there you go.
All right, Ken, thanks so much.